Hey everyone, thank you for watching the video and thank you for serving in the new live stream roles that we've got going on. So I want to show you a little bit about the board, show you how it works, what you'll be doing on a Sunday, and just some very basics. So this is just kind of an introduction, and then we'll get into more specifics in a later video. But for right now, this will give you really everything you need to know. So right here you have the controller. This controller here controls the stream. Basically, the way this works is you have video input that is being controlled by this. So this isn't actually the switcher. This is called the controller. And this controls which video input we're using at a given time. So you'll see here at the bottom, you have your preview buttons that light up green when pressed. And you up top have your program buttons that go red when pressed. The red button shows you what is going live on your program feed here and what is then sent out through the Boxcast. So as you can see right now, we have our wide shot camera 1 up here on the main program feed, and we have camera 5 on our preview. Well, you may be asking yourself, where does that go? Well, right over here you have your multicam view, and this has a handful of different inputs, everything that you have to choose from when switching on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night. So we'll walk through the multicam here real quick. In your top left corner, you have your preview window, which just shows you what is previewed on your bottom rack here. When you switch your preview, that changes to whatever your preview is on the bottom line. So when you are setting up your shots, figuring out what shot you want to use next, this is how you'll do that. So you'll have whatever shot is live going, and you will take a look through and say you have like a really cool drum fill that's about to happen. So you want to take a look at what's going on with the drums. Well, you'll hit camera 6 here, which is our drum cam, and you can get all of that information from the printouts that are also here at the station. Camera 6 right here says drum cam, gives you an idea kind of what we use that shot for. So up here we have our camera 6, our drum cam, that is locked and loaded. And so you can take a look, wait for the framing to sit the way that you like, and then you can hit this auto button here, or you can move the T-bar, and that will transition to whatever you have previewed. So it will just switch the two. Whatever was preview will be the program, and whatever's programmed will then become the preview. So that's how we do that there. The effect we're using is mix. So we're not doing any harsh cuts like with this cut button here. That just automatically switches to the other video feed. And so we're not currently using that. Right now we're just doing auto and going with the mix effect. Like I said, you can use the T-bar to switch between those two, and that gives you a little bit more control over the transition. So currently, our transition is set to 15 frames, which is about a second and a half-ish. Still not quite exact on that, but that shows you how long it will take to get from one camera to another, or you can either flip it there really quick, or you can slowly bring that back. 9 times out of 10, the auto button is the easiest way to go, and that will transition between the two different shots that you have lined up. Over here on the right-hand side, you have a little square of 4 buttons, and the top left should be red. It says DSK1, which stands for Downstream Key 1. When you are getting media from the PC, that is sent through a key. So before we were doing what's called a Luma key, and the Luma key just takes all of these solid black values and makes them transparent. So then you would see under wherever that black was. And so we don't have to worry about that here currently. Just make sure that DSK1 is lit up red like that. You can transition between having them and not having them, but we already built in all of the transitions there in Proclaim, so you don't have to worry about it. So just make sure that is lit up red. Now, there's one other button on this bottom line to be aware of. It's this one that says FTB. That is your fade to black. And if you take a look at the program monitor here, when I tap that, just goes straight black. That is how you can send the entire stream to a straight black value. Only use in emergency situations like a camera falls or someone passes out or whatever, you should not be touching that button there. Again, everything that needs to go solid black or stop the feed is already built in and automatic. So that's what the FTB button is for. Like I said, what you can do is you can just go through the bottom preview buttons here. You can preview what that looks like, what shot that is up top here. And then once you get to a shot that you like, you can just hit auto and it will transition to that shot specifically. So that's the general overview of the controller. This is 90% of the time where you're going to be working is just at the controller here. Now, if you look over here to the side, you will see that we have a computer that is set up pretty similar to what the board looks like currently. So you see in your program feed, you see that camera 1 is live. You can see that camera 3 is preview. And if I switch that by clicking the button, it will affect your multi-view itself. Basically, you can control the entire feed from the computer as well. But because we have the board, 90% of the time, we're going to be using the board. So that's the general gist there. Now, one time you may use this computer is if you're adjusting a camera's focus. Now, you shouldn't have to mess with any camera colors. If things look super wonky, you can reach out. I'm more than happy to help you through it. But if you go down here to the very bottom, it says camera under your 4th tab. And under camera, you will see all of your different settings here. So you see that camera 1 is live, just like it is over here. And once I switch to camera 2, you can see that it changes to camera 2 being live. Same with camera 3, same with camera 4, 5, and so on. But what you can do is you can open this up to get a more expanded view on one camera specifically. Now, when we lock in our colors and the view that we want the stream to have, you can adjust these different colors, all these different values. So you have a couple different values. So you have your lift, your gamma, and your gain. If you know about cameras, the lift and gamma may be new for you. Gain, just think of as your ISO on your camera. So it's your digital brightness or the sensitivity of the sensor to light. So if something's really dark for some reason and for whatever reason it's not looking the way that it should, you can adjust that by either clicking and dragging these sliders back and forth, which again, you shouldn't need to. Take that back down. It's about right there. Actually, it's a little bit higher than that. It is a little touchy. That's just one thing to keep in mind. But you can do that. You have your lift and your gamma, again, different values, and you have sliders here at the bottom that will also control different values as well. Not things that you should be worried about, but I will explain those in a future video. Over here on the left-hand side, though, you have a couple things that will be helpful to you. The first is down here in the bottom corner, there's the letter A with a target symbol around it. What you can do is if you tap that button, whatever camera you are controlling will attempt to autofocus. Because all of these cameras are set up with SDI in and out, we have full camera control here from the board. So when you hit autofocus, it's as if you hit autofocus on the camera itself. So say I'm on camera 3, and let's go live with camera 3 really quick. See the mic stand there in the middle? You can actually hit autofocus, and it's so fast now, you probably weren't even able to see it. But I can slow it down with this manual focus ring right here. And so if you look here on the program feed, you can see now it's all blurry, it's out of focus. And then we can bring it back into focus, about like that there. That is what you can do from the computer and from the controller itself. You can control your focus, you can control colors, exposure. The only thing that we can't control is movement. So we do have a couple cameras that are set up on motorized sliders, but you can't control that motion. That's something that you'll have to set up, and I'll show you how to do that too. So that's another thing to keep in mind. The other thing is if you look at each of the cameras when they are live, they have a light on them. It's called a tally or a tally light. And so when a camera is live, it will have a red light on it. And when it's preview, if it's the preview feed, it will have a green light on it. Just like what you see with the board here, red is live, green is preview. And so your different cameras will do the same thing, again, because they have that SDI control. So that's the general gist of how the whole board works. I'll show you how to set up the sliders and make sure that those are ready to go and how to dial those in. One piece of tech that's really important with that are these little monitors here. So this is an external monitor. This is the F500 from Newer. What this is, it's an HDMI monitor that you can plug in the HDMI feed from the camera. There's a battery that comes with it, a little charger just like this guy. And what you can do is you can take your battery, pop it in the back here, and once you switch that on, it's going to pop up here with the feed itself. So all you got to do is plug in the HDMI into the screen, and as you can see, you have a grid that will give you your rule of thirds as you're setting up your shots. Also gives you a little safe area. So when using the monitor, make sure that the safe area itself is where the subject is. You don't want to have people off to the edge on either side, especially if you're setting up camera 5 on the pillar. You just want to get an idea for where the basic framing is. You don't have to worry about focus because you can focus that later up here in the booth. So this is a huge, huge, huge tool. I know that because the very first week that we had the cameras, when we didn't have these yet, and I was making micro adjustments to camera 5 and running up and down to the green room multicam to get an idea for the changes I was making. And then I was able to FaceTime one of our team members who then showed me what the screen looked like so that I knew what was going on. So hugely important. If you go to adjust cameras, take this with you because it's going to make your life a lot easier. So there's that for you. I'm going to show you how to do the sliders, and then that's pretty much it for this basics video. Okay, don't need that right here. So here at the slider, you have your HDMI monitor. You can plug in to your HDMI in and the HDMI port here on the side of the camera, and you can go ahead and fire up the monitor. I'll show you what it'll do. So this will give you the actual feed coming from the camera. This is what you can use to see exactly what shot you are getting, mostly because these cameras don't have screens on them. Now, I don't know who did this last, but the ball head is not even, so I'm just gonna take a look here and adjust that a bit. And there we go. But I was able to see that the entire time right here. There is a bubble level on the actual head itself too, but you don't have to use that. So this is a significantly more pleasing shot. So we're gonna try that tonight. We're gonna try that just in general. And was able to see all of that just right here from the monitor itself. So as you can see right here, that's where this camera is, or right here, this side of the stage. Other camera is on the other side. So that's how you do this. Once you're done there, you can either turn this off, or if you're gonna do multiple different angles, like different cameras to a test, you can do that. Typically what you're gonna do is you're gonna want to, bless you, Bless you. Hey, you're welcome. What you're gonna do is you're going to use the same setup to check 5 if it gets bumped, if it doesn't look right. But really the main reason you're gonna do this is for the cables here. So, or the cameras here. So 5, might need to come up with a solution so that's not sitting against the track all the time. Yeah, I'll figure something out. But for now, that's all you need. And yeah, so that's the gist right here. And then you can just unplug it. Now, you're gonna wanna do that once it's moving, and I'll show you how those work as well. I'm gonna grab a couple batteries and we're gonna do it on the one in the back of the room. Just has a little bit more light. So we're gonna do that. Okay, now I'll show you where the batteries are for the sliders. So whoever's camera operator, they're gonna be the ones primarily that are handling this side of things, but there is a charger over here next to the side of the video booth. And right down here, those batteries that say GVM on them, those are the ones that you're gonna use for all of the sliders. So on a Sunday morning, you'll just want to snag the batteries. There is a third one as well. Each slider gets one of these batteries into the back of the remote, and I'll show you how to do all of that, but that's how they get power. Currently, they are not plugged in to where you can just let it run all the time. That's the only thing that every single week you will have to turn on until I get a solid power solution. But until then, battery into the remote, and that will give you everything you need to control the sliders. Alrighty, so over here, this is camera 4, so this is the bottom of the sanctuary, down here on the floor, and when you're looking at the stage, all the way to the right. And so that's your slider shot in the back of the room. What I have here, one of our GVM batteries. I'm gonna show you how to put that in and program the slider. So check this out. So over here in the corner, I know this looks terrible. This is a temporary solution, so temporary in fact, it already fell once. But here's the general gist. This looks so janky. You're gonna take your controller here, and your controller controls, obviously, but it controls specifically the slider that's mounted right above. So, all you gotta do is take your battery, pop it in the back here, click that into place. Here is your power on switch. Flip that on, and once you do, you're gonna get a screen that looks about like that. So this is where you are gonna program the motion for the slider itself. So if you tap down to setting and set your start point, what you can do is you can control left to right with the arrow keys here. So I've got my slider here, and I'm just going to tap to the right, which this is when you're looking at it currently. And I'm gonna say, maybe that's too far. Bring that all the way over here. I will label where it should be most of the time. But for now, just use your best judgment. Probably about right there. And so, we're just gonna hold down this center button here. And there you go. It just locked this location in as the start point. So hold down the center button. That's like your back button is holding it down. Go down to end. And then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna tap to the right so it starts going to the right. And we're just gonna let it run. So it's gonna get in position. Once it's about where we want, then we'll stop it again, set that as the end point, or the end point, so that it knows when to stop. Otherwise it will continue to try and run off the track and it will sound terrible. Yeah, we'll try that. Hold down the center button again to set that as our new end point, and then hold the back button in the center once again, and hold it again. Now we can test our shot. Go to video shot, go down to auto mode, click auto mode, and auto loop. So we typically keep it around 70% speed, so you can change that, but keep it right at 70. And we're gonna go ahead and just tap the button to get it moving this way. And now what we're gonna do is grab our HDMI monitor, and we're gonna see what this shot looks like. That's why. The screw must have fallen out. And let that continue to run. Turn our monitor back on. And pop this in to our HDMI port. And we're just going to take a look at what the shot looks like. And there we go. Yeah, so that shot looks good. We're going to stick with that. We can just pull out our HDMI port here, or our HDMI cable, and then that will run the rest of service. So we'll do the same thing with the other two. Again, just keeping in mind what the framing is going to look like for the end product, making sure that for the drum cam and the keys cam that, yeah, we're being mindful of what all we're showing, and we don't want the camera to go too far off the drums specifically, and with the keys we don't want it to go too far past the edge of where the wood is, because it will block the rest of the keys. So just one thing to keep in mind. But that's the majority of what you need to know. And so let's hop back upstairs. So that'll give you an idea here. Like I said, I'm going to do a couple more videos for some more in-depth training. And then I will give you some examples of what the stream can look like. I'll link those as well so that you have those with some notes. But overall, it's a great system. It's really fun to use. It's fun to get into it. The big thing that we want to do is we want to create an experience for those that are watching online. We want to be able to capture their attention, that things would be engaging, and that ultimately we can glorify God with this stream as well as with everything that we do on a Sunday morning. So we want to achieve excellence through that, and we want people to engage with what we're doing here at First Light. So thank you for serving. I know it seems like a lot. That's okay. You'll pick it up. Once you get a chance to start switching, it does get a little bit easier. It doesn't feel as hard at that point. So we'll get you in there, get some practice on the board. It'll clear up a lot of things. But that's the general overview. Really, all you have to worry about are these buttons here. 90% of the time, like I said, all you're going to be doing is taking a look at what's coming up next in the song and setting something up as a preview. And once it gets to a shot that you like, hitting the auto button to switch to that and making sure that the feed is live. But that's it. So, yeah. So thanks for watching. And again, thanks for being part of the team. We can do a lot of great things. But let's do it all for God's glory. That's not original to me. That's a different YouTube guy. But one thing I will leave you with, and this is kind of where my heart's at, is God is a creative God, and you were made in his image. So let's be creative, all for his glory.